This is Modern Photo Solutions, helping you find modern solutions for life's photographic journey. Taking you from photo overwhelm to photo fabulous in just a few taps. Your story matters. It's time to start telling it. Hey everyone, welcome to Modern Photo Solutions. I'm Steph Clay, and I am here today with Matt and Lindsay Kjar, who are doing what we all talk about, but none of us really dare to do it, or maybe a few of us dare do it, but I do have a few friends that have done this, but they're doing what we all dream about, and they have sold everything and put their family in an RV, and they are traveling around the country, around the United States, and having some really neat adventures this next year. Hi, Matt and Lindsay.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having us. This is great.
Yeah, so how long have you been on the road?
We left the day our kids finished with school, so June 2nd was our launch off day.
And so it's been just over 4 months. 4.5 months?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yep.
Okay, and where all have you visited?
Oh, wow. So we've just passed our halfway mark as far as the states. We are on state 26.
Yep, we did a pilot episode. We're filming our journey for YouTube, and so we did a pilot episode in Colorado before we left, and then we left from Salt Lake City, Utah, and headed north. We went up to Idaho, Wyoming, and then just zigzagged up and down across the Midwest all summer long. And then, now we're back east, and we're just headed out of the New England states right now, and then we'll spend the winter in the south and head up the West Coast in the spring.
Okay, perfect. So let's back up a little bit and share with my listeners what you're doing. Because that pilot episode, I loved your pilot episode, and it really helped me understand what you're doing. And it's actually a lot more than what it sounds like and than what I've covered. So share with us kind of how you came up with this idea and your goals.
Yeah, okay. So I do video and television production, and about, I want to say 5 years ago, Lindsay and I were throwing around ideas for different TV shows, and she said, because I'd worked on lots of different shows for other companies, and she said, what are your own ideas? Do you have any of your own ideas? And I said, I think it would be really cool if we took our kids. At that time, we had three little kids. Our youngest was just a baby. And I said, I think it would be really cool if we took our kids and traveled around the country and showed the perspective of the U.S. from a kid's eyes. And she looked at me and was like, that doesn't even sound fun. that sounds like a nightmare, because then I'll be stuck in an RV with these little kids, and you'll be out filming all day. I know that's how it'll end up. And so we kind of brushed the idea off. And then about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, Lindsay said to me, hey, do you remember that idea for 50 by 52? We should do that. And I looked at her and I said, that doesn't even sound fun. So we kind of had a switch of mind there. But what we're doing is we feel like, there are a lot of voices out there talking about all the problems in the U.S., and we feel like there's a lot more that unites us than that divides us. And so we're traveling the states to discover what makes us, our family, and also the U.S. united, because it is the United States. And so in each state, we find a family or a kid that has a different perspective than us, and that has been raised differently than us, which is, every place in the U.S. has a different perspective. And then we shadow them for a day and kind of see what life is like in their lives.
That's so fun and amazing, and such a great idea. Tell me how you're finding these families that you're shadowing.
Yeah, that process is kind of the part that I work on the most. Matt does all the filming and editing, and I work on finding the families and just following up with them. It's been just a total mix of different things. Sometimes it's references or referrals from friends and family, and other times I just get online and Google just random things in different states, different organizations that might bring up a link to a person, or just all sorts of ways. Yeah. So sometimes it's just random Google searches, and other times it's people. Matt has coworkers that have referred different clients they've worked with, and oftentimes it's a friend of a friend of a friend, and then we'll link up with someone, and so yeah, just lots of different ways.
That's so fun. And then you're documenting this. This is what's exciting for me and for my audience, because you are documenting this as you go. Tell us a little bit more about your process maybe and the back end of doing this.
Yeah. So then when we get there, the very first thing that we do is we kind of go and meet the people and just kind of introduce ourselves and give them a little bit of an idea of what will be going on that day. Having worked on one of the shows that I worked on, we would randomly travel the country and knock on people's doors and ask them to tell us their story, because the theory is everyone has a story. And
let's pause for a moment, because this is one of my favorite shows, legit, and it has been since it started. So, and I've talked about it on other podcasts. Can we talk about it for a sec?
Sure. So
it's Story Trek.
Yes.
And it's. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. In fact, I just was emailing with Todd, the host, and we just won another. He said, I was just at the Emmys. We won another Emmy, and so I was like, oh, where am I going to have that shipped to? Because I don't have an address right now. But Todd is an amazing storyteller, and he's phenomenal. And he's so great to work with, and his idea was, he had worked in news for a long time, and said, I really don't enjoy the sad stories. I think every person has a story, and I worked in news for a time as well, and so we could kind of commiserate that way and say, there are so many great stories out there that aren't being told. And so having worked on that show for, I think it was 7 seasons, I took hiatus this last season. So halfway through the season, I asked them if I could take off to do this, and they were generous enough to say, hey, you know what, you need to do what's best for your family, and we will absolutely miss you, but hopefully, we can get you back when you're back. So, but having worked on that show, I kind of know how people feel around cameras. They get nervous, and so we kind of try and give them a little bit of background. And I use compared to Story Trek, I use a very small amount of gear. In Story Trek, actually, we use fairly small cameras. We try to be very quick and light on our feet, so that way we don't intimidate people when we come in. But I'm even more so because right now I'm just a one-man band. So I use a Sony A7S, and I have a couple different lenses that I use with that. I try to be as fly on the fly and fly on the wall as I possibly can. And then I have a couple of other cameras. I have an Osmo, DJI Osmo. I have a couple of GoPros, and then I do have a DJI drone, which is currently out of commission.
Oh,
no. The camera, for some reason, it actually didn't take a spill, which is strange. The camera just has been acting up on me, and so I haven't been able to get those beautiful aerial shots that I've wanted, that I've been missing. But I am able to get some beautiful time lapses with my GoPros, and the Osmo is phenomenal because it's a handheld gimbal, and so it makes the movements really smooth. And so I collect all of that footage. I shoot anywhere from 1 to 2 cards to up to, I think the most that I've shot on a state was probably 4 cards, which ends up being a lot of footage, as far as that's for the primary camera, and then 2 cards from the Osmo and 1 card from the GoPro. So that's the most that I've shot on an episode, or a state, I guess it would be.
So when you say cards, you're talking memory cards?
Correct. Yeah. So I shoot onto a 64 gig card that then I transfer to a couple of hard drives, a couple of portable hard drives. I've had the misfortune, having worked in video and television production long enough, to know that you need to have a main and a backup drive, because if you don't, sometimes you might have an issue. I was editing a show for travel show, and half the footage, one of the hard drives corrupted, and so half the footage of this beautiful location in California was missing, and so I had to make an episode up from what I was able to access.
Oh, wow.
And so I try and do a main and a backup drive as much as I can on the stuff we're doing. So
yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I talk about a lot is making sure that you have all of your photos, all of your video, everything in more than one location. Because if you don't, eventually you'll regret it. It's just the way it is, unfortunately.
Absolutely. Well, and with the internet and the way that things are now, it's great because you can upload to YouTube or to Dropbox or to Vimeo and know that your final episode is there and you're able to access it. And then I keep a backup as well, but yeah, it makes it very nice.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think? Share with us some of your, well, actually, let me ask this question first. Sorry. What has been one of the most surprising things for each of you? Let's take turns on this question. What has been one of the most surprising things on this journey for you?
It's funny because I think the things that you expect to be the hardest end up not being that big of a deal. And then the things that you never thought would be a big deal are kind of a big deal. So for me, I think the thing that's been the most surprising, was that your question? I think
yes,
it's supposed to. I think it's just been like how tricky it is to live in such a tight space with your family. Our kids have always they've gotten along great. They're good friends. They're all creative and have a great time playing together. But living in a 30-foot RV together day in and day out, it's tricky. It really is. They're on top of each other constantly. And so I think just getting along and just figuring out how to tolerate hard things, I think it's that when we knew that would happen, we knew that this trip was going to be out of our comfort zone and that it would definitely push us, it would squeeze us. But we're all learning how to tolerate, just tolerate people and tolerate living in a small space and tolerate not eating your favorite food all the time because our refrigerator is tiny and we just don't have that much prep space. So we're not eating as nice as we did at home and we're not sleeping quite as well. And so, just tolerating a lot of things that aren't ideal and just being able to roll with that. That's been fun and tricky and hard and all that. So,
yeah, that's interesting. And things probably that a lot of us take for granted, being able to sleep well every night and things like that.
Yeah, having to empty the sewage out of your vehicle every couple of days, all that kind of stuff that you're oh my gosh, sewage has just never crossed my mind, where it goes, how it's all treated and taken care of. And yeah, when you're constantly having to think about, okay, when are we going to be able to, unload our sewage next? When are we going to be able to get our fresh water loaded back up? Lots of things that are, quote unquote, living the simple life, the easy, whatever, in lots of ways, your life living in an RV is more complicated than it was at home. And in other ways, it's more simple. So it's just kind of a give and take. But
yeah. What about you, Matt?
I think along those same lines, I think it's been surprising the things that we're willing to trade off for the experiences that we're having. So we're willing to, we're willing to trade off being in a tight space to be able to go and see some of these places. And I think the other thing that has surprised me is the vastness, yet the simplicity and smallness of the U.S. So the U.S. is, it's huge, but at the same time, it is so accessible and it is so easy to travel. It's been, I think our longest drive that we take has been maybe 5 hours, and we end up in some amazing place. We turn the corner. We were in Maine a couple weeks ago, and every corner that we turned, our 13-year-old kept saying, "I think I'm going to cry. I think I'm going to cry," which is not something you hear from a 13-year-old boy, and especially because he was halfway joking but halfway serious, just because the leaves were so amazing and the views were so amazing, and then the people, you realize I think very differently than this person, yet I still have an opportunity to get along with them and to understand where they're coming from. Oh, I think very similar to this person, and yet I have very different views in this way or that way. So that's been pretty surprising for me.
That's so great. Where are you right now?
Where are we, Matt? We're in Connecticut. Yeah, we were in Rhode Island yesterday. We're in Connecticut. We're kind of speeding through these eastern states because they're small, and also just because we want to get down to the southern U.S. before the snow starts to fall here. So,
for sure.
yeah. So, yes, we're in Connecticut right now, and it's beautiful.
We're in I think there's a parking lot. We're in a parking lot outside of Panera and a Price Chopper.
Oh, funny. So are you headed to a different state today, or?
No, we're going to be we'll be here for a couple more days, then we're headed to New York City next. So,
with a travel trailer in New York City, or a trailer, I guess it's not a travel trailer, it's much bigger than that.
It's a motorhome. So it's
okay.
Yes, luckily we actually looked at that. We looked at a travel trailer and we looked at a couple of other options, and we decided, because we're moving so quickly, it's a Class C motorhome. So it's not the big tall ones that look like a van. That look like a big bus. It's the ones that look like a van with a
trailer on top.
Yeah, kind of like a trailer on top type of thing. But and
like a pop-up kind of on top?
No, it's more.
There's just a bed that comes out over the front of it, and then
okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's 30 feet long, and then we have a bike rack on the back with all of our bikes on it. So yeah, it claims that it sleeps 10, but I think if 8 out of those 10 were children under age 8, that would be accurate. But our teenager sleeps over the driver's seat, and then there's a queen bed in the back that Matt and I share, of course, and then there are bunk beds. One of the bunk beds we used for storage, and the bottom bunk our 6-year-old sleeps on, and then the couch folds down to a bed. That's where our 9-year-old sleeps, and then our kitchen table folds down to a bed, and that's where our 12-year-old daughter sleeps. So everyone has a little bit of wiggle room, but not much.
Right. Tell me about some of the experiences that you've had with these families that you've shadowed. Because all of these, you have episodes on YouTube channel, which I'll leave a link in the show notes. And so when people are listening, they'll either be able to, as our listeners are listening, you can go into the podcast episode and tap on it, and the show notes will pull up there, and the link should be live and clickable from within the podcast episode if you're listening, whatever podcast player you're listening in. Or you can go to the website at modernphotosolutions.com, and I'll have show notes there for this episode as well. But tell us a little bit about kind of some sneak peeks on what we might see.
Yeah, this honestly has been our favorite part of the whole trip. The sightseeing has been great, and the historical sites have been fantastic, but meeting these families has just been so cool. But anyway, it's so a couple of the very first ones that we did, we met up with a farming family, and they showed us honestly, just this teenage boy that did this extreme manual labor all day and just was like totally in love with it. So that's been fun for our kids to meet other kids whose norm is totally different from their norm. This boy is just he just lives out in the fields, and his mom has a hard time ripping him away from farm work to come back to the house. Wow. And teenager could not relate to that. So that was fun. And then we spent time with a Native American family for a whole day. They live on the reservation in South Dakota, and that was super interesting. One of our favorites just recently, there's a family who lives in Ohio. They had triplets, and then they wanted to have more children but weren't able to, so they decided to look into adoption. And their look into adoption brought 14 more kids. Wow. They've traveled to Eastern Europe just over and over and over to different orphanages, and they come home with just a bunch more kids each time. And so, they're now up to 17. Is it 17 total or 14 total?
14 kids that they've adopted. So 17 kids total.
Yeah, 17 total. And the majority of the children that they bring home have disabilities. So we spent a day with them, and it was mind-boggling. Just the amount that they had, their plate is so full, but it's also just, it's so fun at the same time. Their house was just a total party. We had such a great time with them. But
I love that. That's so, I can't wait to see to see the rest of them. I had pulled it up before you had started releasing regular episodes, and I pulled up the trailer and watched it with my kids, and we all loved it. And so now we're going to do some binge watching, which I'm excited to get done. And that's what I recommend for all of my listeners too.
Well, and it's funny because people say, wait, you've only posted, I think I've posted up to Michigan, and they're like, where are you now? So I'm several states behind because I'm probably a little too picky on my editing because I go through and I shoot a lot of footage. And so I go through, and as I'm editing, I pull stuff aside and say, oh, I'm going to we've just recently started doing a couple of other shorter videos that I call like on the road oddities. So different places that we go that are just either strange or unique or something that, our kids said that was really cool. The world's largest ball of paint, or my 13-year-old son was super excited to hold Captain America's shield from the original Captain America movie. And so, we've done a couple little videos like that as well. But Lindsay's right. The videos about the families and about these individuals just are, for us, they're so inspiring because they inspire us to think, okay, so what am I doing to impact my kids? And what am I doing to impact the people around me? That family with the kids that they've adopted, it's just phenomenal. They had the opportunity to adopt these kids, and the very first thing, we went around and had all the kids introduce themselves. And two of the most recent adoptees were two sisters, and they were 13 and 15. And the thing that she said, the mom asked, "Kay, I want you to introduce something about yourself that makes you unique or that you love about yourself." And their introduction was, that's my mom. Like I have a mom. And that was the thing that impacted her the very most. And I thought about that, and I thought, that's what everybody wants to belong. Everybody wants belonging and wants to feel loved and cared about. And they're doing that for these kids. And so it makes you think, there's so many unique people all around the US, and just, it could be somebody on the bus. It could be somebody around the corner. It could just be somebody at the grocery store, but maybe just saying hi and getting to know them.
And being a little more open to it, right?
Absolutely. Well, and it's funny when you put a big sticker on the side of your motorhome that says, "Follow us. We're traveling to all 50 states in 52 weeks. You get a lot of people who approach you.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of people who say, "So are you really doing that?" And I have a family in this place, or I've been to this many states, or, "Oh, have you been to this place? You really need to visit this place." And it gives you that opportunity to start a conversation with somebody and just to get to know somebody that you wouldn't normally talk to.
Yeah, that's incredible to be able to have the icebreaker for you so that people are less fearful and it makes you approachable.
Yeah, I think you're right. And our kids, it's been fun to watch them develop. Our 6-year-old was, I think she was a lot more shy when we first left home. She, even going to family functions and stuff, she always hesitated to talk to the aunts and uncles that were adults. And now she's, it's just funny. She kind of charms all the people that she meets with her wittiness. And she'll just go up to adults, that are like tour guides at different museums and different places. And she'll just start talking their ear off. And they're like, "Who is this 6-year-old that that dares to talk to me so forwardly and openly?" And so that's been fun to watch. Each of our kids have just kind of developed in different ways that I guess I'm sure they probably wouldn't have, back at home. But
right, for sure.
Yeah. At home they would have. That's the thing too about this whole thing though, is we don't ever want anyone to think that that we somehow assume that for any family to develop, they'd have to do something similar to what we're doing. I think every family, chooses things that they want to do that will help their family to progress and develop. And this is just what we chose. But yeah, by no means do we think that every family should do this or should want to do this. We don't even want to do it some days.
I've wondered that, actually.
But it works for us, and it's what we wanted to do. So we're excited to finish, and we're excited to come back home and to not be doing this anymore too, So
Yes.
that'll be a good change for us again as well. But
when do you arrive back home?
we're coming home for the whole month of February. We'll be back in Utah because Matt is shooting for the Olympics in South Korea. So we'll be home for a month, and then we'll go back out on the road and finish the West Coast and Alaska and Hawaii. So we'll be completely finished with the trip by probably mid-May or the end of May of 2018.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And I would also like to encourage my listeners to catch up with you on Instagram, 50 by 52, and it's the number 50, and then by, and then the number 52. Lots of really great photos there. Is that all Matt, or is Lindsay, are you contributing as well?
It's 100% Matt. I don't even it's just funny. Like we both have our roles, in this trip, and photography is not one of mine. So I don't even bring my phone with us half the places we go. I figure as long as one of us has a wallet and one of us has a phone or a camera, then we're set. And usually I'm moneyless and penniless and cameraless. So.
Yeah, funny. So I do have a question on your Instagram. Okay, there's a photo on your Instagram from the Breakers.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And your son is doing like this yoga pose in midair.
Yes.
How in the world?
He's right here. I actually have that same question. How did you do that, Ace?
Talk loud.
Talk loud so they can hear you.
I just jumped and crossed my legs at the same time.
That's incredible. Like I looked at that and went, what in the world? You must be really talented, and you must be able to jump really high. To give you enough time to do that.
It was pretty funny. From that same day, I probably took, I don't know, 30 or 40 different pictures. And I know running and leaping through the middle of the air. He's in this halfway split pose, and he's behind the kids, and I just started laughing. I was like, and so then all the other kids saw it, and they said, oh, we should all jump. Let's all jump. And so that was the next impetus of the photo. He jumped and crossed his legs, and everybody else was just jumping in. And so then they all tried to jump across their legs, but that didn't work out so well. So
see, it takes some coordination. That's impressive. Really impressive.
This is what video games does. It makes me skilled.
That's awesome.
He's telling us that video game play is. We went through a corn maze last night, and he kept saying, well, if you'll all just follow me, video games have taught me how to get through things like this. So.
And was he successful?
Yeah.
Actually, our 12-year-old daughter was the one who was reading the map, and so she's the one who guided us a little bit better. But
she had the map.
Yes.
Yeah.
Had the map.
Yes. That is so fun. What do you think, is there any one experience that stands out to you as having been something that has really changed your family?
I think one of our first experiences when we were with the Native American family in South Dakota, our kids had never, I don't think they even have ever met people that live on the reservation before. So spending a whole day there, and their culture is so different from what we're used to. Anyway, so that was our kids have talked about that for months, like just how different it was there, and we spent a day with an Amish family as well in northern Indiana, and that was another one that the kids keep talking about. Their family was, you see Amish people from a distance and you assume that they're so different, and in lots of ways they are, but at the same time, once you get to know them, if you didn't see on camera that they were wearing their Amish clothing, you would have never known, because they were just so approachable and so kind. And so I think stuff like that, like just some walls that come down in your head, walls of like, oh, they must be like this or like that. And then you talk to them and you're like, oh, I was totally wrong. Like they're way different than I assumed they would be, And so I think that's maybe one of the most, kind of brain changers that we've experienced, is just, walls coming down of judgment, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. The assumptions that we make about people. And then realizing that really we are a lot more alike, and we don't have to be afraid of the differences.
It's funny because it's kind of the stories that we tell. We tell stories in our own heads sometimes.
Yes.
We tell stories about other people. We tell stories about ourselves. And a phrase that Lindsay and I keep repeating with each other that we absolutely have grown to love is, what somebody else thinks of me is none of my business. So if somebody else doesn't like what we're doing, that doesn't matter, because it's not any of my business what they're telling themselves about what I'm doing. What I'm telling myself about what I'm doing, that is my business. And we've been repeating that almost like a mantra. And if when we know better, we do better. So when we know how something is, then we try and do something better about it. But if we don't know better, then we don't do better. And so those are two things that we keep trying to repeat to ourselves, maybe more so that we learn them ourselves than our kids. But
I love that. I love both of those quotes a lot. Those are really good shareables. I'm typing them into my notes right now because I'm like, I need to share these on social media. So good.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, these are really good tips. Okay, I can't wait to get in. Do you have a short link for your YouTube, or is the best way to go to find you on Instagram first and then just click the YouTube link?
So our YouTube is 50 by 52. So if they searched in YouTube the number 50 by 52, and then our website is 50by52.com. And so on there and on our website, they can also send, say for example, if we're looking for a family to shadow in a different place and somebody wants to be shadowed, there's a link there that they can send us a message and let us know. We also have Twitter, but we're more active on Instagram, Facebook, and obviously YouTube.
Yeah.
But at 50 by 52 on Twitter, at 50 by 52 on Instagram, and then 50by52.com.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about your theme song, because I love it.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Well, Matt met this group. Remind me what their name is.
The
National Parks. For some reason, I had a brain freeze. But yeah, the National Parks is a group that Matt shadowed when he was doing the story trek. And and we as a family, we just totally fell in love with their music. And so we just wrote them a letter and said, hey, do you mind if we use this song? And they we paid them, of course, to for the opportunity to use it. But the National Parks, look them up; they're amazing.
Yeah,
they're phenomenal, and they actually so they played and they tour right now. They're touring right now, but they started playing at the same club called Club Velour. That's where Imagine Dragons and Neon Trees and a bunch of bands like that that have gone national. That's where a lot of those have played, and so that's where we met them on Story Trek is at the Club Velour.
That's really cool. I love hearing the connections and the backstories of all of this stuff. It's super fun. Super fun. And it's one of the things that I talk a lot on this podcast too is about, and on my website and social media, is that everybody does have a story and everybody's story matters. And we have to tell it. We have to tell our stories. And so I like that you guys are getting out there and not only telling this story of this year of your family, but helping others share their stories too through your YouTube show.
Thanks. It's really interesting. People, I don't think people realize how important their lives are. We went to Gettysburg recently, and it was so interesting to see just the individual lives and the individual stories that happened there, and the people not even realizing the everyday stories, the everyday impact that they were having on generations. And that's how it is in so many places. One thing that struck Lindsay and I several different times, you look at President Washington, and you look at several other presidents, Dwight D. Eisenhower. They were kind of drafted to become president, and because they were just doing what they thought was right. And so it's really interesting, just good people doing their everyday life has an impact and makes a difference. And I think that's what we're hoping to tell as well.
For sure. You're making an impact too, which I think you probably don't realize right now how big of an impact you're making, but it's a real thing. I totally agree with you. None of us, I think, really understand how important our lives are and our stories are and the far reach and impact that they have. Because it's not just, our immediate family and the people that live around us anymore, especially in this day and age of social media. It's global, that it impacts. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time to live.
It really is.
All right. One more time, let's tell everyone where they can find you on social media and catch up with you. And I would also, before we do that, one of the things that I wanted to do is to challenge my listeners to go watch an episode or two, or all of them. That's what we're going to do around here, is binge watch the rest of them. And I was excited to get to a point where I could binge watch, because I think that's kind of how we do things now. Netflix has changed us. And we're a society of binge watchers now. And so I'm excited to go back and do some binge watching. And I want to challenge my listeners to do that as well. But also, what I would love to have happen is for this family, the Kjar family, to be able to experience the power of the Modern Photo Solutions community and the impact of the Modern Photo Solutions community. And so I would love for each of my listeners to share the YouTube channel as well with 5 people in your life that you think would find it interesting, because I know that we each have at least 5. So go watch some episodes and then share the channel with at least 5 people that you think would be interested with it, or share about it on social media. But definitely, I think a link and an email from somebody saying, hey, I love this, but share about it on social media too, because I love uplifting entertainment like this. And it's entertainment that is fun to watch, but it's also changing. It changes us as we watch it, and it changes the people that are participating in it too. And I would love to see more stuff like this out there. So share with me. If you end up sharing with friends and family and watch the show, send me a message on private message, or make a comment on Instagram, Facebook. Send me an email. Let me know. I love to hear from my listeners, as you all know. So share with us one more time where everyone can find you and catch up with you.
Thank you. And we would love that. That would be very kind of your listeners. We'd appreciate that. At 50by52 on Instagram, at 50by52 on Twitter, 50by52.com is our website. And then our YouTube channel is 50by52 as well. And thank you so much you've been incredibly patient with us as we've been on the road. I know early on you contacted us and said, I would love to talk to you on the podcast. And we wanted to, and in the process of selling our house and selling everything that we own and trying to get on the road, you've been incredibly patient in trying to get this interview set up. So thank you so much. And thank you to your listeners for sharing. We feel like they're important messages to be shared, and otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. So
for sure. Yeah. And I think it worked out better this way, actually. So, there are no accidents. And I think it was because before I was going to have you come on before you'd even hit the road. And I think this is even better because it's far more impactful, and you've had some experiences that you were able to share with us. So I think it worked out great. No apologies necessary.
Me too. Yeah. Us too. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right, everyone, be sure to connect with 50by52 with the Kjar family. And thank you so much again for joining me. And we will see you next time on Modern Photo Solutions.